Hello there.
Hi. Tell me about what we're going to talk about today.
All right, this is going to be fun. I brought in my collection of Epiphone Coronets and brought in my Crestwood along with a misfit that you're like, why is that one with everything? But I brought my telly also, and we're gonna talk about why I brought it here in a little bit. Why are we doing this? The Epiphone Coronet is a very interesting solid body electric guitar. There's things about it that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, and rightfully so, because it was a little short-lived in the configuration that might be recognized what we're going to be talking about. Gibson started building Epiphones at the Nashville facility somewhere in the late era of 58, because I've seen a few solid bodies from 58, don't own one. They did the first solid body double cutaway Epiphone at the end of 1958, so it predates any double cutaway Gibson labeled solid body guitar. And then shortly after, they came out with the double cutaway Junior. As we progress, the double cutaway models also progress. This is a 1959 Epiphone Coronet. It is all stock, and it's in, considering its age, it's in really great shape. The very first Coronets came in black. That was the color they were offered in. And these first versions, the body's a slab body. It's 1 3/4 inches thick, and the edges are only slightly rounded, say like a Fender Telecaster that is also 1 3/4 inches thick and has kind of a similar treble kind of thing going on here. Thus the reason I brought the telly, because if you put them up to each other, what the Coronet is a Telecaster. If you just cut it in half and book matched it, you have a 1959 Coronet body. That's literally what it is. I mean, I truly think they were going after trying to enter into the Fender market. Fender had the Stratocaster already, and they were kind of innovating that way. So I think Gibson was trying to find some new ideas to go along with what they've been doing for a long time. And they are using the Epiphone parts that were part of the inventory that they purchased when they bought Epiphone. So at that period of time, they're using the carousel temp knobs. They have the New York pickup that people mistakenly call a mini humbucker. It's not, it's a single coil pickup. We'll talk about that. They had the metal badges that people call a bikini badge because of the shape of it, like a bikini. So they were using Epiphone parts. Oh, even the truss cover, that's a metal Epiphone truss cover that you would find on Epiphones from the late 50s. Epiphone archtops and whatnot that were built throughout the 50s, they had a really skinny neck that had a pretty pronounced V shape to them. This has that exact neck. It's a V-shaped neck. So my theory is that they were using the tooling that they got from Epiphone 2, because there's no way that this neck was just like, hey, let's use a leftover neck. I don't buy into that at all. I think that they were using the tooling, and that these first necks were this made in the fashion and neck profile you would do an Epiphone neck. The New York pickup, people look at it and, size-wise, it looks like it's a mini humbucker. It's not. It's probably more closely related to a lipstick pickup than anything else, because it's a bar with the wire wrapped around the bar under there. You'll see there's little slots on each side of that pickup holder, if you will, or it's more than a pickup ring, it actually, the pickup mount. That's designed where you can slide the pickup forward or backwards slightly to change, you know, I guess the treble response or whatever a little bit if you wanted to. Very cool guitar. These are super, super rare. When I first started working at a vintage guitar shop in the 90s, I remember we had, you know, various books, but there was a section in there where a guy was showing off his Epiphone collection, and he had one of these. I'd never seen one before that, and I instantly connected with it. It was just like, oh my God, I want one of those guitars. And it was probably another 25 years before it actually happened. So stick with it, it'll happen. I figured if we're gonna have fun showing off guitars and all that, and we should also probably hear what they sound like. And I think if we're gonna hear what they sound like, it'd be fun to hear them through the type of equipment that was available during the time period that they were made. So I brought a couple things from home. Brought a 1961 Fender Deluxe. I brought a 1962 Epiphone Pathfinder. Pathfinder has reverb and tremolo in it. The Deluxe doesn't have any reverb in it, so I thought maybe it'd be cool to bring a two-Beckleplex. So I've got my old two-Beckleplex. And then they didn't make overdrive pedals in the 60s, they made fuzz pedals. So I brought a super old Marshall Super Fuzz, and then a late 60s Italian build Vox tone maker. I apologize that I couldn't bring anything that was cool. I had to just dig through what I had, and this was the best I could come up with. Remember that slap back kind of. Now we're into the mid 60s, and we just heard, you know, like Jeff Beck play Heart Full of Soul and stuff. And we're like, wow, we need fuzz. And, you know, maybe by that time we're not so much about rockabilly, we're more psychedelic. So we're going to take the time of the delay and make it a little longer so it's a little spacier. And, you know, it's surprising that this pickup sounds as good as it does. Just because something is vintage doesn't mean that it's great. But here now in 2026, it's a really awesome sounding pickup that it has its own unique character. Trust me, it's there. It's there. I can feel it. Now we're gonna go to 1960. 1 year later, 59, 60. Big change. Everything's changed with this guitar. Now we're seeing a cherry finish that we recognize on a lot of Gibson models, finish that they began using a lot. They used it on the 59 Junior. Here now we've got the Gibson reflector cap knobs. They're now using a P90 pickup. They still have some of the metal bikini badges left, so they're still putting those on. 1 3/8 inch body thickness now instead of 1 3/4, and now we see a really heavy beveled, you know, rounded edge, very sculpted. This pickup's got a little more mid-range to it. You can already tell it's going to be a little more gnarly. Gibson, when they bought the Epiphone line, they were trying to figure out how to incorporate it into their dealer network. The way I understand it, they were offering the Epiphone line to non-Gibson dealers as a way to get into the Gibson family, if you will. Gibson was already recognized as the solid body electric guitar. Epiphone was not. They were a jazz guitar. They built arch top jazz guitars. That's what they were known for. I don't have a 61, but a 61 and a 62 are going to be pretty much the same. All the same features as the 60, except now they've used up all the metal badges, and so now they're doing an inlay, and they started putting a letter E on the pick guard. That was the other thing they started doing. But other than that, you know, it's the same guitar. Within the solid body line that they did, they offered the Coronet, that was the single pickup model. They had a Wilshire that they introduced in 1960 that would have been 2 soap bar P90, so similar to a Les Paul Special. And they also made what they considered a more deluxe model, and that was the Crestwood. And so the Crestwood gets a little more fancy appointments. Now you've got these mother of pearl oval inlays. Now you have 2 mini humbucker pickups. You've got an ABR1 bridge. You've got this unique tailpiece that was an Epiphone tailpiece. They put this on, you'll see them on like Casinos and a few other guitars from the early 60s. Before they phased this out, and it's probably a good thing they phased it out, just like they phased out the sideways vibrola. Good things to phase out. Not everything is a great idea. But here, you know, we got this fancy guitar. It's got this clear pick guard where you can see the wood grain through the guard, and then this is like painted white on the bottom half of it, and they've got their letter E on top of there. In 1963, Gibson was using a very low profile flat fret on these. People will call it a fretless wonder, but when you look at this guitar close up, the frets are very, very low to the fingerboard, and they are dressed flat. They are not dressed with a crown. You would think that maybe somebody had taken a file to it and just filed them all flat because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. No, that's how these were made. Pickups have like a nice little treble response on top of that. They're not muddy sounding, but they're not like ice picky bright or anything like that. 2 together. These guitars I don't gig with. They're fragile, they're expensive, they're things I don't want to bang up and everything. But I love playing Epiphone Coronets, so I needed to have one that I can gig with because I don't want to just look at things. And so I did buy one it's all there. This one's, you know, like super checked and like the pickguard's broken. I've swapped out the tuners, but the other tuners were all bent up, and there is one crack here from somebody over tightening a screw, but it's all there. You know, the electronics are all there. It's a killer guitar. I put a Tone Pros bridge on so I can intonate it, and even with the stock frets on it that are still in remarkably good shape, it's got the similar neck profile to the 60. Kind of that wide flat thing that I really like a lot. And this guitar is light as a feather, so it's easy on my shoulder, and it screams because it has a P90, and that's what they do. They scream. It's killer.